Hey everyone, it's Spoonie, and this video is not going to be like any of my usual content. I want to get real personal for a minute and open up some of my health issues. I have a disease called Bartonellosis. It's also called Bartonella. Um, One of the reasons I want to make this video is because a lot of times when I want to search this out, the only content I can find is either like medical science videos or like experiences of women talking about it. And while a lot of what they say is relatable to me, there's a certain point at which the difference in genetics, I can't follow them. I can't have that deeper understanding. It feels pretty alienating sometimes. So I just want everyone, especially any guys that might be out there that might be struggling with like Lyme disease or any kind of like invisible illness. I just want to say, like, you guys aren't alone. Okay, so Bartonella, which I'm just going to refer to as Bart going forward, it's thought to be a cat scratch disease, like transmissible through cat scratches. You probably heard the term because there was a Ted Nugent song, Cat Scratch Fever. But it's a real thing. It's not just transmissible through cat scratches, though. There are several different vectors or methods of transmitting it. Typically, because it's sort of in the family of Lyme disease, most people think of like ticks, but things like fleas, spiders, mosquitoes, sandflies, like all these things, anything that bites the skin and draws blood has the potential to transmit this thing. Now, I spent a lot of my summers as a child around farm country. So I was definitely exposed to that kind of stuff, and lots of bites, stings, and scratches. Now, I will say, in as far as the whole cat scratch thing goes, the suggested appearance of what looks like claw marks, for me, my personal experience is accurate. I have seen photos online that, to me, they look like stretch marks, and I was a heavy guy, so I know what stretch marks can look like, but Um, mine look like something inside me tried to claw its way out. Now, they typically fade within a week or so, and they leave little to no scar or sort of residual marking. Now, Bart is a really insidious bacteria. Most bacteria, when they get into your body, they transmit through the bloodstream. Um, but what Bart does is it's actually able to pass through the cellular walls of the red blood cells, and it just nests in the cytoplasm, and the red blood cells literally will carry it throughout the rest of the body. And it loves to burrow and live in soft tissue. Um, it loves connective tissue like joints, knees, and shoulders. Um, It's also capable of taking root in brain tissue and can affect the central nervous system. And one of the nasty things about it is that it is constantly reproducing. Lyme disease, I think they say reproduces every, might be 72 or 96 hours. So with something like that, with a course of antibiotics, you can sort of pulse it. So you can, what in between when it's replicating, you just hit yourself with heavy dose of antibiotics in an attempt to kill it, and you do this for a few weeks, and hopefully, ideally, you see results. Bartonella, though, actually reproduces. I think it's every 24 hours. So there's basically no window for you to take antibiotics. You would have to be on like a permanent course of antibiotics, and I think that would probably mess you up. Now, looking back over the course of my life, over the last several decades, I've identified several events in my life that, like events of poor health, that I now could have been potentially early flare-ups of what I'm dealing with. Um, but for the most part, everything changed for me in the year 2017. Um, I was I sustained an on-the-job injury to my left shoulder at work, obviously. I was doing some physically repetitive task, and I sustained injury because of that. And I was sort of recognized as have being injured on the job. I got several weeks, like I think like 3 months almost, of free physio. And it was very helpful. And meanwhile at work, they gave me modified duties like mind numbing, like data entry, something like honestly I think the managers should be doing, but they had me do it so they could get extra coffee break or something. Um, but I sort of kept on trying to recover and not go insane at work. And so sorry, the injury occurred in August of 2017, and by the end of the year, by around the end of December, I was kind of getting back more into um, my regular responsibilities. And then, sort of come the new year after the holiday break and everything like that, I was sort of anticipating to go back to my regular work. It's something I discussed with my doctor and my employer, obviously. So early on in 2018, um, I'm talking maybe the end of January, mid February, I started to notice like an abnormal lack of energy, like at the end of the week, instead of like, going out and doing something on the weekend, catching a movie or grab some dinner, whatever. Um, I just spent Saturday and Sunday kind of recovering from the last week and getting ready for the next one. Like I've always enjoyed jobs that have a physical aspect to it. So I kind of just figured that, I was feeling tired because I do a physical job and I am getting over an injury. I'm on the other side, but I'm still in recovery. But then in May of 2018, I had another event. So I was in the middle of finishing something up, and I experienced an intense spasm in the side of my neck, especially like on my left side towards my shoulder, because that was where I had injured myself not even a year before. Um, so I went to report it. There was nobody in the nurse's office, so I had to go to HR to try to find somebody, and they just sent me home. Um, but things were different this time around. My employer like called me a liar in their official, um, I guess, record of events that they submit to the workplace insurance board. Um, Completely distorted the events of what had happened, and they actually did tell me that they were basic. They basically told me they were looking for an excuse to fire me. I had I had a doctor's note that says, in the condition my patient is in right now, he's not going to be able to perform these duties for a minimum of 2 weeks. I will reevaluate him before then, and ideally, he will heal, and that'll be better for everybody. Um, so there's an absentee call-in line at my workplace. If you weren't going to be in yet today, there's a number you call just to let them know, hey, I'm supposed to be in at this time. I can't make it, whatever reason, um, including like a medical thing. So I called them and I said, I've got a doctor's note here. Um, and I think I even emailed them a copy of it. And like it says minimum of 2 weeks. Like I can't return to work earlier than, you know, the X of Y month. Um, then and the woman on the line said, "Okay, I understand. That's fine. I hope you feel better. Thanks." Not even an hour later, I get a call from HR, and they say that I need to, regardless of whatever doctor's note I have, I need to call in every single day and report an absence, or they will fire me. So after several weeks of this, back and forth with my employer, and getting paid nothing, no income coming in, I had to quit the job, because it became clear that they really didn't care about me or my health. Like maybe they think I was lying, but I had to at least put myself first. So for the rest of 2018 and the first half of 2019, I was just trying to address the biggest issues for me at the time, which were pain and fatigue in that order. Um, so I tried a bunch of stuff, different prescriptions, different tried different types of physio, different things, and it felt like the pain just got worse. Um and it felt like it was like from that initial my left shoulder, it felt like the pain was like starting to radiate out. Now I was feeling it like in between my shoulder blades and closer to like lower down my back. Um So that was everything was already going pretty crappy there. And in August of 2019, I experienced my first seizure. Um, I was getting a ride somewhere, and like from my perspective, I can remember getting the passenger seat and being in the car, and the car was backing out. And then like the next thing I know, I'm waking up kind of groggy. Um, the driver's like telling me like, look, you just had a seizure, you were out for like, I don't know, 20-30 seconds. And I'm like, what? No, that's not real. And he's like, yeah. So I just like I felt sick, like I was gonna throw up, so I wanted to get out of the car, but I opened the door and I kind of just fell out. um but yeah, so I got done with all of that, and we went to the hospital, and they did some testing, they ran some imaging, and they just said, look, your family doctor will be in touch with the results to go over this stuff with you. So that was in August, like kind of the first week of August. um the second week of September, I had another seizure, and this was a big one. Like the night before I went to sleep, I was getting tired. Okay, turn the lights off, pull the covers up, go to sleep. I wake up on a hospital gurney. Um, my wife tells me I've been there for 14 hours. Apparently, I started seizing massively during my sleep, and she said it took like 4 or 5 paramedics to get me onto the stretcher just because I was thrashing around so wildly. Like I said, I don't remember any of that. Now where I live, they consider 2 or more unprovoked seizures. Um, that gives you an automatic diagnosis of epilepsy. So I get to live with that now. And what more than anything that means is it prohibits me from a lot of stuff, because legally where I am, I can't drive a car unless I have a doctor sign off that says I have gone 6 or more months with no seizure activity. And like that's I didn't really drive anyways. Um, but this just adds a whole new complication to the whole thing. So I mean, after that massive, they call it ictal. After that massive ictal event, that big seizure, they started to, like, my doctors started to basically test me for literally like anything that was could possibly affect the central nervous system or the immune system or whatever. And I've been tested for herpes, for hepatitis, Graves' disease, Addison's disease, Hashimoto's, lupus. I actually got an HIV/AIDS test. Um, like literally anything they could think of. Now, during this time, I ended up casually chatting with a guy on Reddit, believe it or not. And this person suggested I look into some Lyme disease literature. And so I did. And I learned about the co-infections like Babesia and Bartonella. Um, and there's a lot more that exist. And a lot of the facts about this stuff, it really resonated with me. So I go to my doctor and I ask for a Lyme test because that's pretty much the only thing that hasn't been administered so far. So, um, yeah, I only got the test because I basically had to like run through the gamut of literally other or possible disease. Now, we got the results from the test back and they're inconclusive. So the doctor chooses to view that as a negative. So no, there's nothing wrong with you. Now, Canada's testing is really strict. They require a higher number of genetic bands or markers for a positive diagnosis than a lot of other first world nations. Um, I actually had to ship my blood internationally. Now, I chose IGeneX. They're based out of California. But I also heard that the US lab Galaxy Diagnostic and there's one called Armin Labs in Germany, and those are also pretty reputable. So by now it's about November of 2020, and the results are in from IGeneX. So I go to the doctor to get the official interpretation of the results. Now, there were Lyme antibodies present, so it couldn't possibly be Lyme disease. But the whole BART aspect was more interesting because after having consulted a colleague, my doctor confirmed there was Bartonella, but said that it was non-pathogenic. That which makes no sense. So it's just like hanging out, doing whatever in my body. It's just there to party. Like there's a lot of people who have these diseases. There are a number of them who believe in like kind of conspiracy theories, and I can say the fact that my doctor kind of acknowledges it but can't officially acknowledge it. That just, in my opinion, lends credence to some of those things. But I just care more about the actual treatment than silly nonsense. Knowing is half the battle, so understanding my situation better after the diagnosis allowed me to face it more directly. Um, I learned about something called MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome. And mast cells are the cells that basically deal with anything that enters your body, whether it be like food, liquid, um, anything external that enters your body, it goes through these mast cells. And what happens is um, they flare up um, on so many different things that I eat that I've had to sort of really alter my diet compared to how it used to be. So, like I said, I got that kind of confirmation um, towards the end of the year 2020. And sort of as soon as that was confirmed, I started to make adjustments to my lifestyle. I almost immediately went keto because one of the big things that causes inflammation for me are actually carbs. So almost completely eliminating that for the first, I don't know, 7 or 8 months of 2021, I lost like more than 80 pounds. And like at some point it felt like it started to just melt off, but I had the realization that it wasn't me losing fat as much as it was me like detoxing. Like there was a lot of toxic bloat. So carbs are basically poison in my body, so now I try to consume as little or as least often as possible. Um, it's if you think about it, it is kind of hard to avoid them in the modern world that we live in because it excludes me from things like anything made from grain. So any kind of bread products, any kind of pasta. Um, there's a lot of like sugar, especially converts into carbs. That's a bad thing for me. So there's so much stuff I can't have. I don't really care too much about like candy, but like I miss having ice cream. Although I've actually had some keto ice cream that's really good and I think tastes just as good. Anyways, I've realized that I'm not well, and I probably never fully will be. Um, Regardless of the lifestyle that I might try to maintain. And I admit I have, gone lax at certain times, like over the holidays recently. Um, but Bartonella seems to have a natural cycle of dormancy and then activity. Um, July of 2022, several months ago from when I'm doing this video, I had a day, it was a Sunday. I don't know the number. And for like 10 hours, I was having these episodes where I would have like really violent vomiting spells for like that lasted for like 5 to 10 minutes. Um, it was so intense that I felt like I was kind of like being waterboarded or something. Like I almost kind of felt like I was gonna choke because I couldn't breathe. Because um, yeah, it was scary a little bit. Anyways, I ended up puking so much and so hard that I ended up giving myself whiplash. And it's only recently that I feel like I'm starting to kind of get over that. So yeah, anyways, that's my story. If you made it this far, thank you, and I hope you get something out of it. Sometimes talking about things is really the only option. And like I said, if I can, connect with one person out there and help them feel like, hey, there's maybe somebody like me, um, then I think it's worth it. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. I wish you guys all good health, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.